Hey 5th grade, this week our video will be on geometry. Our video is going to be geared toward what you guys did in 4th grade last year with geometry. If you guys attended EMIS last year, you may recognize some of the slides and things that you are seeing throughout this video because it will be things that you guys did last year. We are doing this to help prep you guys for 5th grade geometry and what we're going to learn about. Some of the things that you will learn about for geometry will be on Wednesdays, and it will also be through our asynchronous lessons that we will use. So please make sure that if you do have questions that come up throughout this video that you jot them down or message us in Canvas. That way we can ask and get those things cleared up before we get too far into 5th grade geometry. Alright, so we are going to start by talking about some vocabulary words that you should be familiar with from 4th grade. These words are point, lines, line segment, ray, angles, intersecting lines, perpendicular lines, and parallel lines. And don't panic if you don't remember those or you're not exactly sure what they are, because that's what we're going to do today is go through and talk about some of these. So a point, it's in an exact location in a space. It has no length or no width. As you can see here, point A is just labeled. We talked about points earlier in the year when we talked about graphing on a coordinate plane. We plotted points on a coordinate plane. You can also take letters and represent those points as well. So you can see that this point here is labeled as point A. Then we have lines, and I'm sure everybody could take a pencil right now and draw a line just like normal. But a line is a collection of points going on and on infinitely in both directions, and it has no endpoints. So that they go for each way forever and ever and ever and ever and never stops. A straight line that can continue forever. It can go a couple different ways, so vertically, horizontally, or obliquely, and that is also diagonally. And it's identified because it has arrows on the end. So a good way to realize that it's a line is because it has those two arrows that are right there on the end. You can also use letters in order to label this. For example, over here, you can see that this line is labeled as, it is line AB or line BA. Then we have a line segment, and there is a difference between a line and a line segment. You guys can probably look at the different pictures on here and tell what that difference is. But a line segment is a part of a line. It has two endpoints and includes all the points between those two endpoints. So it is a straight line, but it stops. So that's the big difference there between a line and a line segment, is that a line segment stops. And again, it can go those three different directions as well, and it's identified by the points at the end. So for this line here, it would be line A, D, because that is the first point and that is the last point. Notice, however, it does have points B and C listed along the way though. The next one is a ray, and a ray is a part of a line. It has one endpoint and continues on in one direction. So it's a straight line that stops on one end and keeps going on the other. So we can see right here we have point A here, and it's going to keep on going forever and ever in this direction because that's the one that has the arrow on it. Same thing, it can go those three different directions, and it is identified by a point at one end and an arrow on the other. So it could be named here as ray AC or ray AB based on the letters that are in that line or in the ray. So the next point that we have is we have a vertex, and a vertex is the point where two lines or line segments or rays meet. So you guys can probably take your hand and do like this, and we would create here what an angle would be. Right here where the two pieces join together, that would be our vertex. So you can see it has the vertex pointed out right here, and it also has the vertex pointed out right here on point A as well. You are going to need to know this word, especially for 6th grade next year, so something to think about as well, remembering what a vertex is. Then we have angles. So an angle is where two rays that have the same endpoint form an angle. This endpoint is called the vertex. So angles are found whenever lines and line segments intersect. So you can see here that we have ray AB and ray AC here, and they connected, they intersected right there in order to form an angle. There are three types of angles that you guys are going to need to know about. the first angle is an acute angle, and an acute angle is smaller than 90 degrees. So it's going to be very tiny like this. We can always remember an acute angle by saying, oh, it's so cute, because it's always so little. We have an obtuse angle, and that's going to be larger than 90 degrees. So it's going to have an opening similar to this. And then last but not least, we have a right angle, and it is exactly 90 degrees. So we find right angles a lot of times in rectangles and squares. They typically have 4 right angles. And those right angles there, again, just like all of these other angles, are formed by 2 rays. We also have something called a straight angle, and a straight angle is just simply a straight line. It's going to measure 180 degrees. So here we have angle QRS or angle SRQ, whichever way you look at it, forwards or backwards. Okay. Angles can be named in 3 different ways. You can use the 3 letters to name it. So for example, I could have angle BAC, a point on one ray, the vertex, and the point on the other ray. So first point, vertex, second point. One letter, I could use just the letter of the vertex. So I could just say it is angle A, or a number written inside of the ray, similar to this. I would say that that is angle 1. After angles, you guys discussed lines and intersecting lines. Intersecting lines are lines that cross and have one point in common. So a lot of times we can do like this with our fingers, and that would be intersecting lines. I could say that this is line AC intersects line DE, and they intersect at point B. So notice that that area right there is also labeled as a point where they both cross over. Lines that cross, but they do not form a right angle. That is what intersecting lines are. So they cross, but there's no right angle. And we have an example over here of a railroad crossing sign shown. Then we also have perpendicular lines. And perpendicular lines are special intersecting lines that form right angles or square corners where they intersect. A lot of times you may see the little boxes right there showing you that you have a right angle right there, but anytime you see them going straight up and down, just know that that is forming those perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are what we see in a coordinate plane anytime that we are graphing on there as well. Here's some more examples of perpendicular lines. And last but not least, we have our parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that lie on the same flat surface of a plane, and they never ever cross. So they're going to continue to go on and on and on in their own directions without ever crossing. They are always the same distance apart and do not share any points. So down here, I could say that line AB was parallel to line CD. Here is an example of parallel lines. They are train tracks. So as you can see, they go on and on and on forever and ever, and they're never, ever, ever going to touch. So the next section of our slides here are going to be geared towards shapes. And we are going to review all of these shapes in 5th grade as well and talk about something called a quadrilateral hierarchy. On here, our first shape is a quadrilateral, and it's important to know that the word quad means 4. So a quadrilateral has 4 sides, and all of these are pictures here of different quadrilaterals that could be considered or classified as a quadrilateral. Then we have a trapezoid, and a trapezoid has 4 sides as well, but it is special because it has one pair of parallel sides. So all of the images here are images of trapezoid, and they also all have one pair of parallel sides. So line AD here is parallel with line BC. Our top and our bottom line here are parallel. Same thing, our top and our bottom line are parallel. Top and bottom line are parallel. This one, the sides are parallel, and then top and bottom here as well. Then we have a parallelogram, and a parallelogram has 4 sides, but notice that the first letters in parallelogram are parallel. So that means that they have 2 pairs of parallel sides. So each one of these would be considered a parallelogram because both of their sides, whether they're top and bottom or side and side, are parallel. Then we have a rhombus, and a rhombus has 4 equal sides, and it also has 2 pairs of parallel sides as well. Here are some pictures of rhombuses. And then we have a rectangle, which hopefully everyone's familiar with rectangles. Rectangles have 4 sides, 4 right angles, and opposite sides are congruent. And if you've forgotten what the word congruent means same or similar. So these 2 sides here are the same length, and these 2 sides here are the same length. Most of the time you will see these little signs here, they're little dashes to show that these 2 are equal and these 2 sides are equal. And then there's some other pictures of rectangles as well. And last but not least, we have a square. A square is 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. A square is always going to have the same length of side for all 4 sides, and they are also always going to have 4 90-degree right angles. As we go through 5th grade, we will talk about a quadrilateral hierarchy, and we will get a little bit more in depth about these different shapes and how to classify them together.